Hi everybody, welcome back to Lunch Attack.
Welcome to Lunch Attack.
We have a very special edition of Lunch Attack today, but as usual, we're going to start off with a prayer. My name is Jesse.
My name is Benson. We got Mike.
We got Mike Gordon on the other end.
With us today.
So we're just
going to be awesome,
say a prayer and we're going to jump right into this. God, thank you so much for blessing us with this space and this time and the equipment to be able to connect. Thank you for providing us with Mike today. It's going to be great to connect and get to know him a bit better. Thank you for providing us with this lunch today. I pray for everyone watching that you bless our time, bless this food, and thank you so much for continuing to work through everything. In your son's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Shout out to True2AO, Holla. Shout out to Alyssa Sampson, Mike Gordon, the humblest legend.
So, as per usual, we start off. I would like to start off with, what are you having today for lunch, Mike?
Yeah, I am an adult. And when you get old and turn into an adult, you can eat what you want. And you don't have to follow the rules. So I got water.
Okay, healthy.
And then a gigantic bag of M&Ms. That's my lunch.
Yes.
All right, yes.
And that's not me trying to be funny. Like, this is my lunch. I need to go grocery shopping.
Oh, man.
What about you? What do you guys have?
What do we have today,
We
chef?
have Katie, our awesome chef. There's some spinach with the ever clutch sunflower seed dressing.
Oh man!
And then she made a quiche with some leftover Easter ham that we. It's pretty swanky. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Yesterday we did a segment called. I almost called you on that one, Mike. Called "Crazy and Interesting Foods," and man, we were not prepared. We were not ready for the kinds of foods that that was brought up on stream. You can watch that segment back if you want. It was so hilarious and so gross. Shout out to Lita, who's in chat, John Matthews, Glenn Sampson, Constantine, Yuki. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
So I guess our lunch is slightly more nutritious than Mike's. Maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Wait, no, I got... This is like calcium. No, this is like the dairy products.
Okay.
You know, that dairy, water, no protein, I guess. But
you got a couple of food groups in there.
Wait, the peanut butter M&M, is that protein?
Definitely. If there's peanut butter.
I don't have that kind. I got normal chocolate, so.
That's awesome.
You know,
we also have Akimono, who's in chat.
Akimono.
And
What's
Hannah
up?
Stover.
Hannah Stover. He ate a green M&M. That counts. Yeah.
Yes.
Because the green ones are the most healthy.
green is healthier.
Yeah.
like Dutch toast. Some call this lunch the race to heaven. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I might be cutting off a couple years of my life, but I'll get to heaven quicker, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we're so grateful you're here.
I know.
Mike.
In real life, I do eat pretty good, but today's just a weird exception.
Okay.
I don't eat M&M every day for lunch. Just like, I wouldn't fit on the screen if that was the case, you know? So.
Yeah, honestly. No. M&M's it's all part of a nutritious lunch, breakfast, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But thanks again for being here today, Mike. We're gonna jump into some questions, just getting to know Mike a bit. Just before we do that, I just wanted to say there was one time, the first time I ever saw Mike speak. He is a professional speaker, very funny guy. We were in, I think it was at the Change Conference, and Mike mentioned he's from Scarborough, and we're filming right now from Scarborough.
Yeah.
And we're there in this
Scarborough
room.
boys.
There's a couple hundred people there, and Mike's like, "Anyone here from Scarborough?" And me, and Benson, and Matt were like, "Yeah!" Woo! And there was no one in the room other than us from Scarborough. Everybody in the room just looked at us.
Pretty much. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Well, we probably scared them.
Yeah.
You know? Like, the reputation being from Scarborough, like, everyone else just goes, "Oh, don't make eye contact." You know what I mean? So.
Exactly.
Everyone else left the room.
They all wanted to leave.
Yeah,
but it's always a pleasure hearing Mike speak. We saw him this year at Blizzard. Our youth loved it. Our youth leaders loved it. And we're really grateful for you being here today.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I love this stuff. And you guys are awesome. And to reconnect with Scarborough, like, anytime. So
Yeah, dude. I
love
do you have any like favorite? Because you're out in London now, I believe.
I'm in London, Ontario.
That's like where
now.
you're based out of.
Are
there any places? Are there any places like in Scarborough that you like kind of miss?
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to date myself. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Okay.
Morningside Mall. I don't know if you remember Morningside Mall. Like
I do.
Actually, it's a weird intersection. It was like Kingston, Lawrence, and Morningside. It was like three streets kind of blending into one. It was like, to use Scarborough term, it was like the most ghetto mall in the world.
Yeah.
Like, literally the worst. And it was so bad that they tore it down and like just rebuilt like that whole corner of Scarborough. But I would go there. They had a Walmart. One Walmart was like brand new to Canada. Well, maybe not brand new, but it was new to me. Right. And then I would go there when I was a high school student. I would go there to like do the jailbreaks on your phone. There's some sketchy stuff. So you like buy a phone from someone and they would unlock it.
Yeah.
That was basically Morningside Mall. So I missed that for sure. The restaurants, actually not too far from you guys, Korean barbecue.
Oh,
yes.
I heard Matt almost died one time eating there.
Yeah, 100%.
True story.
Yeah, I was there.
I don't know why I'm laughing. That's horrible. But I miss it. So every time I'm back in Scarborough, more or less every time, my old youth group, I used to work at a church in Scarborough, 15 or 16 years ago. So all my youth, who were like 14 at that point, are now like, late 20s.
Right.
And I was much older than my youth, at that point. So almost every time I'm back in Scarborough, we try to do Korean barbecue. And we always go late. So you go like, at 10:30 p.m.
Or the late hour?
Yeah.
And I love it. So that's a place I try to hit up. And I'm not sure if the place is getting better or worse, but it's still a good place for my little heart. We don't have anything like that in London, so
Okay.
to get cheap meat for like all you can eat meat for $11, you can't go wrong unless your name is Matt.
Yeah.
I know there's a little bit of danger to it, right? It's like the roulette.
Yeah.
When you go, so it's kind of exciting, especially when it's late night and
You hear some horror stories about that place.
about Korean girls.
That's like less than 5 minutes from here. That's just
Yeah.
that's just up the
Just
road.
down the road.
Street, yeah.
For those who don't know the system, basically it's like $11. They give you a little piece of paper. You check off what meat you want: chicken, beef, like squid. If you really, can put the money into it, you can get the other menu that has like cow tongue. Maybe not cow tongue, but weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they just bring all the meat to you, like raw meat. And you throw it on a little grill in front of you. So if you don't cook it well, you can't blame them. Like you're basically, setting yourself up for danger, So, but I don't do chicken when I'm there because I'm so scared to like undercook it and die.
Yeah, chicken is risky,
Yeah.
a risky one.
Yeah.
No.
So I do beef. I like always just load the beef on.
Oh yeah.
Undercook the beef. I think again it should be okay. Again, unless your name's Matt, then that's a whole different situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a little sketchy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jenna Palmer says Morningside Crossing and Scarborough shoutouts at youth conferences definitely define most of my high school experiences. So good. We got more Scarborough people
Yes. Represent.
in the chat.
Yeah.
Moving on here. Mike, what have you been up to during this time of like self-isolation? How have you been keeping busy? What's been on the go for you? What's that like? Oh, he's munching.
I started eating wrong time.
It's all good. It's all good.
Don't eat with your mouth open. Is that what I told you? Don't talk with your mouth open.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, great question. So, what I do normally is I speak full time. Every year different, but more or less I might speak around 220 to 270 times a year.
Whoa.
That's a lot. So as you can imagine, everything has gotten canceled. From now until the end of June, everything's been canceled. So I have a little more time on my hand, for sure. So to stay busy, what I did was I started a little like online tour where I've been doing stuff like this, streaming with different groups and different churches and ministries, and so almost every day, give or take, maybe like 5 or 6 times a week, I've been teaming up with someone in this capacity to kind of hang out with their group. So that's part one. Part two, I've been working on a book for a while now, so I've been putting a lot more effort into this book. And hopefully I can finish the first draft by the beginning of June. That takes some time. And then on the side, I was, for lack of better terms, hired to film about 50 videos for a book that was written in the 80s. Someone took it and rewrote it into like modern times, as in like 2020. And but they also like no one really reads any books anymore. So they thought, hey, it'd be cool if you can basically take this book and break it into about 50 small videos that we can use and show it online and give it to different churches and youth groups. And so the filming stuff has been fun, but it takes some time. So I'm trying my best to stay busy. And if you know me, like I'm a busy person. I'm just like go. But those are the 3 new projects I've been able to put more attention on or focused on over the last couple weeks. And for the next couple months, hopefully we're back to normal by the end of June. But who knows, right?
Yeah.
When summer hits, I got all the festivals and camps and all that fun stuff, and we're already having some conversation of those things being canceled, and some of them, a lot of festivals are U.S. festivals, and with the border reopened by then, so I'm kind of hoping for a few reasons. I love what I do, so I don't want those things to be canceled, but I'm not sure if I can do like 5 months or 6 months of staying in the house and not being around like thousands and thousands of people. And I'm a people person, so but I'm trying to stay busy and productive. My goal over the next couple of months is really to look back at being home. It is a luxury, and I want to look back and say, listen, I was productive. I did something, or I have something to show for it. And I'm in like a luxury situation where I can do that, being in ministry, and I work for called Youth for Christ Canada, and they're super cool. So I'm still working full time, so I can be productive and take on different projects. And I want to look back at the time and say, hey, here's what I accomplished, or here's what I did, or rather than saying, hey, I watched 800 different Netflix shows. And I'm nothing against watch Netflix. That's great. I do watch like TV, and I'm more of a sports guy, which is really sad right now. But but I want to look back and say, hey, I did something with my life over the COVID-19 season.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned sports. You mentioned how you're usually out around people talking a lot. What would you say you miss the most? Like number one that you miss the most of since you've been kind of self.
Honestly, it's speaking live, speaking with people. I love the speaking part of the ministry, obviously, but it's being with people, talking to them before and after, and hanging out, being social. I really love that stuff. And it's unfortunate because usually when I speak each year, I usually take December and January off, usually. So early February, like Blizzard you mentioned earlier, like that was my first time speaking in 2020. And so I was really excited to get back at it, back on the road. And then, 5 weeks later, and then everything got pulled. And, so I missed that because I kind of felt like I just started up again for 2020. And then now I'm back to, I would have planned my life differently if I knew this was happening. I would have spoke all of December and January. Took the break. So I really do miss it because honestly, I love what I do. So that's the big part. I do miss sports, especially in the spring. Like, oh goodness, like we would have had
playoffs,
NHL playoff, NBA, like baseball starting up. It would have been some really cool things. A couple of good UFC fights were scheduled. Like all of it, man. I'm not a soccer guy. So like I don't miss soccer. But I'm hearing rumors some of these leagues might try starting up soon with no fans. I'm hearing those rumors. Unless you're the CFL, they never had fans to begin with. But
they shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah. But I'm hoping that starts up again because I don't want to say I'm addicted to sports, but I'm a huge sports guy. And my stupid thing is like I'm not sure if you're a sports guy. Like on your phone, you go to like the Score app, and they still like post like what games should have been played today, which is really heartbreaking. When you look at it, you're like, oh man, like today the Blue Jays would have played, and you look at it and my heart breaks every time. I'm like, today should have been so cool, when there could have been Raptors and Leafs and Jays and all that. So
Yeah.
I try not to log in on that.
I definitely have the sports. We're big sports guys.
Yeah.
Jesse's a big basketball guy. I love hockey. I definitely had the sports app, and I actually followed like the Leafs, like games, so it gave me notifications. And I eventually had to delete the app because it kept giving me the notifications.
You're
And
just
I'm
getting
like,
too sad.
it's not even on. And I just like deleted the app. So I have to reinstall
Well,
it.
it's like a drug. It's like a drug where like you get that little ping, you get that notification like Leafs are playing. Your brain just goes into it changes everything, and then you realize no,
It's just
false
disappointment.
alarm.
It's a whole disappointment. Yeah.
Like how, well, like that bell when they ring the bell and the dog starts like drooling everywhere. It's kind of like the exact same situation.
Yeah. So do you
What
have-
are your teams? What are you a Leaf fan?
Yeah, I love every Toronto team pretty much. Leafs, Raptors. I follow soccer, so I follow the MLS with Toronto FC. Yeah.
I like, I'm a big Raptors fan. I was a big Lakers fan, but I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. We don't need to talk about that. So I like the Clippers.
Oh.
I like Kawhi Leonard. So I was really excited to see the Clippers and the Lakers, go at it in the playoffs, right? But
Yeah.
I guess
No,
that's
100%. Yeah. So who knows what might happen there? I'm hoping they start up again. Like there's been all these rumors they might move everybody to Las Vegas and play out of like an arena there, but I have no idea. I mean, I want a season to continue because I'm selfish.
No, same.
But the good news is if the NBA season is canceled, we can say Toronto is still reigning champions, right?
Yeah.
So,
For
that's
another year.
that's the benefit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a silver lining, I
100%.
guess.
Yeah.
So you're speaking about, sports games, and we kind of talked about restaurants. Like, do you have a place you've been thinking of that you're like, I'm gonna go there as soon as all these like bans are lifted? Like the first thing you're gonna do once stuff opens up again. Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, man, I'm a big food guy. I love food. So sushi is my favorite,
Yes.
Japanese food. So I'm pretty confident, like first day out, we'll go out for lunch, for all you can eat sushi and just kind of eat until you crap all over yourself. Crap all over yourself. Bring the diapers. Bring the diapers. Because,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's the plan. I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, I don't know. I haven't really thought bring on sushi.
No, that's fine. Shuli in the chat said KBBQ, bringing it back. So that's probably
We gotta run it back.
Yeah.
KBBQ.
Definitely
I
missed
did.
that.
Our house, we did order sushi 2 weeks ago. I think it's different when you order it in. It's just not the same.
It's not the same.
So going out to eat all you can eat.
Yeah, it's not all you can eat. It's not the same.
Then you hit the sushi coma where like you can't walk for about an hour,
Yeah.
and then you you want to sleep,
Yeah.
and then you don't want to touch sushi ever again. You like that moment, and then like 45 minutes after that, you're like, man, I wish I ate more. It's a weird cycle of your body shuts down to, oh man, like I can go for another round.
Wow, that's awesome. That's cool. So you talked about being a full-time speaker, professional speaker. Is that sort of what you always wanted to do? Is that something like you always want to do? And maybe like you can share a little bit like how maybe you got into it.
Got something in my mouth. It's not an M&M. I don't know what that was. Yeah, that's a great question. So, speaking was never what I wanted to do, ever.
Wow.
I can remember going back to high school. And, in high school when you had to give like a 3 to 5 minute presentation, and I hated it. That was the worst part of high school. That's the day you want to call in sick, or just fake it, or like I would have anxiety. And like back in the old days, like our clothing styles have changed a little bit. I feel like I haven't changed in like 25 years. But like now everyone wears like really skinny clothes, like really skin tight clothes. Well, when I was in high school, it was the opposite. You wore like the most baggy clothes ever, like pants, shirt. And I remember in high school, like I'll be like in class, knowing my presentation might be coming up in like 10 minutes, and like I can feel sweat, like because my shirt was so baggy,
Ooh.
I can feel sweat dripping down my entire like rib cage. It was so gross.
Oh.
So I hated public speaking. I actually studied business before I got went to Bible college and got my degree in theology and worked on my master's. So even like when I finished school, like business was the focus. It wasn't ministry, and especially not speaking. However, a couple years in, I took a summer intern position at a church in Scarborough, and that's when I fell in love with ministry. Everything except speaking. Like I love the people part, the games, walking with people, talking to people who are going through tough times and trying to figure out who Jesus is. But if you said, hey, Mike, go do your sermon or go do like a devotion or lead a Bible study, hated it. That was like the worst part. So I would like, get other kids to do it or, try to, hey, tell your testimony again, Timmy. I did it last week. We'll talk about grade 7 this time. Like kind of like, or you do like the video thing. I love videos; they're so great. But I did everything I could to avoid it. Then eventually, the pastor was like, "No, Mike. Like you have to speak more. You have to like do your job, essentially." So that was with the summer intern position. But then I started working for that church and a Christian organization, and by default. I had to essentially speak. The first couple of years in ministry, because I had the business background, I would actually help different churches in Scarborough and in Toronto, but more Scarborough. I would help churches develop ministry from scratch. So I might say, hey, I can give you 5 hours a week, and I might start a youth program for them, or an outreach program, or a sports program. And I love that part of the ministry as well. But if you're starting a ministry, again, you're not going to be hiring a speaker every Friday night. So by default, I had to jump in there and do the speaking part of it. And again, I absolutely hated it. But over a couple of years in ministry, it slowly grew on me where I started, getting a little more excited about it and a little more passionate about it. And it probably wasn't until maybe 2008, maybe 2007, 2008, where I sound old when I say that, where I really started feeling like, hey, now is, I really felt that dream was starting to develop and starting to focus more on the speaking side of ministry rather than the business side of ministry and the ministry startups. And as I started focusing more on the speaking, then I tried to say, well, how can I develop this, the skill set that I need to potentially, maybe truly go this direction and focus on more of the full-time speaking side. So I've been on the road full-time now for 9 years.
Wow.
Speaking, which is insane, like 9.5 years, something weird like that. But it's so weird because I hated it. And if you told me in high school, or if you told me when I first started ministry that, hey, you will focus on speaking one day, I would have thought you were insane. I would have thought you were crazy. I know some churches that, maybe very spiritual churches might have, their prophet. Have you ever seen, someone, they name themselves Prophet Bob or whatever, and their Facebook name is Prophet Bob. Well, Prophet Bob came up to me, 15 years ago and said Mike would be a speaker.
Oh, wow.
If they did.
Okay.
I would say, Bob, you're a false prophet. Get away from me. I hear from God, bro. Seriously, go get a new job.
Oh, man, that's funny.
If they did. But no one ever came up to me and said that, obviously. I would have thought they were insane if they did. I love it. But, I never wanted to be a speaker in any way, shape, or form until, maybe, 2008, 12 years ago.
Wow.
So. And I had no idea what that would turn into. I don't think I knew, even when I started speaking full time. I left the church, a very large church. I was a young adult pastor, and when I left that church to focus on the speaking, I was speaking on the side before that, but to go from salary to no salary and then speaking full time. Again, I was thinking it might be for 6 months, a year. And then I'll jump back into the church ministry. So here we are 9.5 years later. Wow. It just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Shout out to Prophet Bob in the chat, first of all.
Yeah, false Prophet Bob.
But it's cool to hear that it was it was a transition and it was a process. And I think it's cool to hear that it happened over time. And for myself and those who have heard you speak, I think they would say you have a pretty unique style. How would you describe your style?
Twisted. No, well, it's one of the things in ministry. I think sometimes, especially in the speaking aspect, I think sometimes it takes years in some aspects to really to discover who you are as a speaker, and not even just to discover who you are as a speaker, but to feel confident being who you are as a speaker. Like when I first started speaking, I would kind of, this was before, everyone had a podcast. So, but you see different videos online or different websites or whatever, and you kind of copy how the most popular people would do it. So back in the old days, like when I was in ministry, the two popular speakers at the time were a guy named Mark Driscoll and Rob Bell. Completely opposite styles.
Yeah.
Rob Bell would try to be all profound, and Mark would just like start yelling at everybody. Well, I thought, hey, that's the way to be successful as a speaker. So because I wasn't confident in who I was, that was kind of the style I picked up. I tried to be like a Rob Bell, profound. All the kids, there'd be like 8 kids in the crowd. They'll all be like tuning in, like leaning in to sit profound. And all of a sudden they're like, "And don't sin!" They're like yelling at them. They're like, like, I don't know why, but just what I did. I think a lot of people probably did that. That's just how it was. Now, like 2020, everyone's trying to be like Stephen Furtick, and everyone's trying to be like, like Judah Smith and all that. And I get it. Like there's a journey as a speaker where you look up to people who are doing it well. But at some point, you have to start discovering, who am I as a speaker? So over the years, I guess I just started learning who I am and received confidence, along the way. I can be who I am. And I got a twisted sense of humor, and I'm a storyteller, and that's a big part of who I am. And I had a random person come up to me. His name was also Bob. No, it wasn't Bob. I'm joking.
Bob strikes again.
False prophet Bob.
Yeah, they're all Bobs. Prophet Bob from Scarborough. The Prophet Bob of Scarborough. I'm so sorry. You're going to see like his name on a poster at a church. Oh, Prophet Bob is coming to our church. You're like, oh, Mike bashed him. I'm like,
we don't want him coming.
I don't know who he is. I hope there's no Prophet Bob. Anyways, I was at a church one time. I did have a random man come pray for me. And I was really wrestling with the ministry side of like, can I be who I am, and can I be who God made me to be? Because even when I was in Bible college and studying, the message that was kind of sent across was, if you want to have success in ministry, you have to look a certain way, act a certain way, talk a certain way. And it's so easy to kind of fall into that mold, because you want to have success, you want to, be productive, you want to, be a part of establishing God's kingdom. And if you're told, here's the little box you have to fit into, that's a circle. Here's my box. For years I tried to fit into that box, and I knew that wasn't me. I knew it wasn't my personality. So I used to like dress up, nothing against dressing up. Like I used to like somewhat dress up, somewhat. I used to be like very mature. Like I wasn't a storyteller. My humor was not a thing when I first started speaking. It was very like, hey, here's your 3-point sermon, and here's all the Greek and Hebrew that I can, spit at you. Which I'm sure I butchered every single Greek and Hebrew word, but no one really knows the difference.
Yeah.
If you're a young speaker or any age, really you can go up there and just say like, hey, the Hebrew word for peace is blah, 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 and people will be like, oh, that's really profound. Like, no one's going to Google it.
Wow.
Even not peace. People, a lot of people know the word for peace. Shalom. But maybe a random word, you can just mumble anything you want, and people will be like, wow, he knows his Hebrew. He sneezed in the middle of the sermon, and people will be like, oh my goodness, man, he's educated. That was kind of my style at first, and but over the years I realized that wasn't me. So I had this man pray for me at a church who came up to me randomly as I was kind of in the season of trying to discover who I am, and also wrestling with the whole conversation of, can I be myself and be successful in ministry, however you define success, but be able to do ministry and, work with churches. And anyways, this random man came up to me and he just prayed for me. And I'm not really into the whole prophet thing. I was just kind of joking earlier, no offense. I believe it's a real thing, but But a random man came up to me, however you wanted to label it, started praying for me. And he said, hey, God is telling me. And sometimes when people say that, I go on guard, I'll be honest with you. Like, you know, because I've had people say some really funny things. I'm like, bro, that's not God. Like, trust me. You know? Just being respectful, but, just being honest as well. But this man started praying for me. And he said, hey, God telling me. And he said, he wants you to start being yourself. Stop trying to be like everyone else.
Wow.
And for me, that was just bang on for what I was going through in life. And I almost felt like it was a turning point in my ministry because I felt like that was God kind of saying, however you want to label it, if it was God or just a man, I took it and really, felt like it spoke to me. But I really felt that was a time where I got permission almost to be like, Mike, it's okay to be you. It's okay to, use your twisted humor. Now, with the twisted humor, it took a couple of years to really find out like what that line is. I try to get as close to the line as possible, but the first couple of years I might jump over the line and like get like an email or two. So now I think I'm doing okay, like just walking like the line, like go as far as you possibly can go without getting like parents emailing you or like pastors emailing you and said, what did you say? Like it was a joke. But that's just my style. I love it. I love the humor. I love the storytelling. But I'm not. My goal to go up there isn't to be funny and tell stories and people go, oh my goodness, you're the funny storyteller. I just use that to capture people. When I was in school, one of my professors for one of our teaching and preaching classes, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it stuck with me. He said, if you don't capture their attention in the first 5 minutes, you might as well walk off stage. He said, if you bore them or don't grab them right away, you can talk for another 25 minutes, but you probably lost them already. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but for me, like I felt like that's something that stuck with me. So the reason I do storytelling and twisted humor, it captures people. Like I don't care who you are. Even if it's like borderline, like oh my goodness, it's going too far. People are still tuning in. It's like a train wreck, like where is it going? Like worse and worse and worse. But then I always like bring it back to like, bang, like here's what we're talking about Jesus wise or the Bible wise, or here's the point. So I use that technique really as a way to capture an audience. And then when you capture them, like you have them for the most part. You have them for the next 20 minutes or whatever it is to really, okay, here's what I really want to tell you with the speaking and the, here's the scripture I want to walk away with or whatever. And all my stories I share, like if you've seen me speak, there is a point to it, And I mean it very respectfully, but I'm very transparent. Something that pet peeve of mine is when, like, on a Sunday morning, a pastor goes up there and tells a funny story, get people laughing, and then he goes, "Okay, now I'm going to start the sermon," and it's like completely like there's no connection. It's like, well, try a little harder, make a connection, make it flow. Nothing against that at all, but I'm like, everything I do with storytelling. It does lead into everything. It's not just a random, oh, here's my time to tell some jokes and then, stop that in a segue. So my style, I would say it's twisted, but ultimately I would say it's me. It might be the best way to put it. And I've done some weird things, man. Like I did actually a Blizzard a couple years ago. You guys there a couple years ago when we did the one on identity, and I think I broke like a mirror. I'm not sure if you remember that one.
I think I was there for that one.
I don't think so.
I don't know if Jesse was. Yeah.
Well, the opening story for the Blizzard, I compared a product called Metamucil, which is like fiber, with Cialis. And
yes.
And if you ever look at the packaging, like the packaging looked identical. And a long story short, I always thought Cialis was fiber, And a long story short. I tell a big story, but it's actually a great story because it looked at, here's what was made. The person who made it looked at it from one way. Maybe I was looking at it from a different way. Same thing with God. Like, God created us. He looked at us one way. We might look at ourselves a different angle. And after I shared that story, I thought it went well. Afterward, the pastor came up to me. He's like, Mike, you might be the only person in Canada who could get away with sharing that story. I'm like, that's so good. That's so good. So I guess my style, I mean it humbly, but I think my style has become me, over the years. And and I've been very blessed that people tolerate that, and for whatever reason, invite me back. But I'm still learning what that line is. Now, here's my dream. Now, I'm not take too much time. When you're younger, you get away with stuff. I feel like the older you get, the more you get away with. I can't wait till I'm like 82 years old, and I hope I still have this twisted sense of humor, and like you can get away with anything at that point. Like people might think you're senile, but but still, like I can't wait. I can't wait for people to be like, "Who's that senile old man talking about diapers?" You know.
Oh, man.
And that's my dream. That's my dream in life.
For sure. 80-year-old Mike would be
that's
a sight to
epic.
see.
Epic.
Looking
I'll probably
forward-
drop the same too, like black.
Yeah, you wear the same. Yeah.
Looking
I
forward
think
to the day.
I think part of it is
I might need a black bib, you know.
a black bib. I think part of it is also that, like, you know, people who know you or have seen you speak before, I think part of it is they also kind of know what to expect. So like bringing youth there, it's like I remember the Cialis talk, and it's like, oh well, this year at Blizzard, it's like, yeah, same old Mike. It's like we're going there again, you know.
Yeah, and you have to like
Skirt
mentally
the
prepare
line.
your kids.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it's so good though. They always love it, and we always appreciate hearing you speak. You
And then that's all, and then followed by 3 weeks of like therapy for all the kids.
pretty much, yeah. You
No, I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. No, I'm very thankful that that I can be myself, and for whatever reason, you know, people bring me in, and they bring me in a second time, and I'm very honored by that, and I don't take that for granted. So, yeah, it's awesome.
You mentioned that you travel a lot for speaking.
Yep.
Are there any? What are some cool places that you've been? Maybe that you're speaking of is taking yours, or maybe what are some cool people that maybe you've worked with?
Oh, great question. I mean, all the questions are great. That one's really great. Yeah, I feel like I'm burping from like
Yeah.
M&M lunch.
Great lunch.
I feel like they're trying to escape me. Again, I need the bib. Yeah, so with the traveling stuff, I've been all over the place. I think the coolest place I've been booked to speak was a church. 2 years ago, I was speaking at a church in Jerusalem.
Wow.
And so that was kind of cool because, you know, that's kind of where Jesus was, and where, you know, Christianity really begun. So, so I think I have to say Jerusalem. I never would have expected to be booked out there and flown out there to speak. That was insane. That was just insane. So that's a really cool city for in that regard because of, you know, the history. I think the coolest city I've ever actually been to speaking was Dubai. I did a couple of Christian conferences in Dubai. And that was just the coolest city I've ever been in my entire life. It's so futuristic. It's so modern. It's so like just a wow factor. So those are the cool ones. I've spoken to, you know, around Scotland, and that's where my family background's from. So you know, to walk around, you know, where my family used to walk around wearing kilts and dresses. You know, it's nice to know where I came from, and to be able to preach there. When it comes to teaming up with people, yeah, I just been so blessed to be able to team up with a lot of great speakers and more bands. So I teamed up with like really cool speakers from like Francis Chan, Nick Wojcik, but the challenge is when I'm speaking at these bigger events or a lot of time in the U.S., you know, they don't have like 10 different speakers. You might be the only one, right? So you don't always have the luxury to team up with a lot of speakers because sometimes you're the one.
Right.
And that sounds arrogant, but I mean, you know what I mean? But if you're doing stuff with bands, it might be a 2-band headlining that night and or whatever. So like with the bands, I've been with everybody, more or less. And I mean that humbly. It sounds arrogant when I say that, but like Hillsong, Toby Mac, Keen Country, like Skillet, Tomlin, like literally the list just goes on. For Keen,
that's
like
amazing.
McRae, there's like a bunch of stuff with him. Like this summer, who my book was this summer. If it doesn't get canceled, like Newsboys and Lecrae again, Crowder, like all this stuff, and I've been able to like team up with some really cool, awesome people. Not just team up with them, but when you do that for like when I first started speaking full time, like I wasn't all of a sudden going from a young adult pastor in London to on tour with like Skillet. Like those things develop over time, but over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing a lot of stuff with bands, and you develop really cool friendships with them. And yeah, everyone is so humble, and I would say that because another pet peeve I have is when people start talking about Christian musicians, and they're all like, oh, they lost focus. They're all about the show. They're all about the lights and like I don't know. I'm not even sure what that comment means. But people say they're about the lights. They're all about the lights. Like, what does that mean? Like, you want it to be dark? Like, but sometimes there's a perspective like, oh, when you get to a certain level, like you lose focus of, why they're doing this. And I would say being behind the scenes and being in the huddle before they jump on stage, like praying. They're so humble. Like they're not walking around with egos at all. And I'm talking about like the bands that have made it. Sometimes the bands that might be a level down where they're slowly getting success, but they're not there yet. I find these bands might be more in that kind of rock star ego. It's all about the lights because they're trying to make it. But from my experience with the bands that have made it, this is what they do, and they point it all back to Jesus, and it's actually really, really cool to see behind the scenes, and just how humble they are. It's not like everyone has it's not like people are requesting like 5-star catering as well behind the scenes. So I might do a festival in Boston, and a lot of these festivals are in like parks or fields and whatever, and they set up all the tents and the stage. And so backstage, it's not like a hotel. Backstage is like just picnic tables. And you walk back there and just understand how humble these are. Like you'll walk back and here's picnic table number 1. It's like there's Tomlin, there's Toby, and over here is like Run Collective. And everyone's eating hot dogs. It's not like 5-star catering and everyone has their own little trailer. And it's actually really amazing to see how humble these guys are and these women are to say, hey, we're here to do ministry, we're here to do music, and we're not about all the other stuff. And it's actually really refreshing. But I share that because sometimes people have a different perspective of what that world looks like. But I'll say they love Jesus. They want to be a light, and they want Jesus to be seen through their music. And regardless how many lights there are, Yeah.
Wow. No, you're right. That definitely is like refreshing. Yeah. I would say to hear. Yeah. For people that haven't necessarily been in that same scene. Yeah. And you mentioned some really cool artists and some other speakers. Kind of curious, like, who do you listen to, like music-wise or speaker? Do you have speakers that like you go to that you listen to that you would recommend for other people?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, what's the music? This is the horrible part about music. I don't listen to as much music as people think I do. And for example, when I did a tour with Lecrae, you would think, okay, you're doing some events with Lecrae, you would think I would know his music. Like, I probably could maybe name 2 songs of his. It's horrible, awesome. Right? And that's like that with a lot of a lot of these bands. People hate me. They're like, Mike, you're teaming up with this person. Like Toby Mac, I love Toby. Been with him for 5-6 years. I might name again 2 or 3 Toby songs. That's absolutely horrible. And people hate me because they're all like, oh, you have to eat lunch with him. And I'm like, yeah, anyways, so it's the music part, so the music I would recommend is from people like friends, right? Like, again, Skillet, I love them. They might be the closest band I'm closest to, like, when it comes to that scene. Yeah. And they're doing some great stuff. Like, they're doing, like, a really cool crossover type music where they're saying, hey, here's who we are. We are the light of the world. We love Jesus, and that message does not change. So they would do, like, an event here with, like, Toby. And I'm not making this up. Then, like, the night before, Toby there was doing a show with Guns N' Roses. You know what I mean? Like, wow. With Skillet, people don't realize who they teamed up with. They travel with, sounds weird. They travel with Nickelback. I don't understand that connection at all. But yeah, but Skillet traveled with some of the biggest rock bands in the world, like secular rock bands, and just knowing their perspective, I would always promote their music, even if it's not your style. Like, the ministry that they're doing is really cool. Switchfoot, I've been with them a bunch of times. I've always loved their perspective and who they are. And so the people I would recommend music-wise are, just the people I like, friends, essentially. I mean that humbly. It sounds arrogant, but no different than any of us. We'll promote our friends. I'll do the same thing. When it comes to speakers, who I listen to, I got I'm just gonna pull up my podcast. I listen to like a lot of people. I am a Craig Rochelle fan from Life Church, and for a couple of reasons. I feel like I feel like he's a good communicator. I feel like his teaching is something I can give anybody. So someone in Christianity, I'm like, hey, here, this can be really good for you. But someone a mature Christian, I'm like, hey, here's something that you probably can still get stuff out of. The thing I like about Craig is like he has a twisted sense of humor too. People don't realize that. If you actually watch his stuff, like it's actually hilarious. Like some of the stuff he says like on stage, I don't know how he gets away with. And understand Life Church, they got like a bunch of campuses, right? So with all their campuses, I think they average like 88,000 people a weekend.
Wow.
So that's a lot of people. That's with different campuses.
Yeah.
But to be thinking, hey, I'm streaming to 88,000 people through our campuses, yet alone, how many people watch online, and still think, hey, I can make this inappropriate joke on stage. For someone like me, I'm like, yeah, cool, man. I love it. But I like him. Like, I read and listen to like a lot of, not a lot, but Ravi Zacharias. He's just really smart. I don't understand half the stuff he says because he's so smart. Like some of the stuff is so profound. I'm just like, you do like, yeah, it's a great point, good point. Like I don't know what but I do like that kind of approach. Yeah, I don't know, and I kind of find good stuff. I like a lot of stuff on leadership as well. But here's my challenge: like I like feeding myself through podcasts. I'm not always just your typical sermon podcast, and the reason I don't usually go that route all the time is because I try really hard when it comes to prepping talks. I try very, very, very hard to make sure like everything I'm preparing is my material. And what I mean by that is, when I was pastoring in a church, it's easy to take material from other people, and nothing wrong with that. You get resources, and you take it and maybe craft your own, way of spinning it. The problem is, again, I mean it humbly. It sounds arrogant, but I mean it humbly. I can't take a Francis Chan message and make it my own because I might be doing an event with Francis Chan. You know what I mean? And I heard a horror story a couple of years ago where there was a very big speaker headlining this conference, and someone, I don't know if they didn't look at the lineup, but I know the story. I know this person firsthand. And so the speaker showed up, and it's one of those conferences where you might have 4 speakers, and anyways, so he showed up early for the conference. I think he showed up before lunch. He was speaking in the evening, and there was a younger pastor on stage booked to speak, and he was speaking. And this pastor, the headliner, the keynote speaker, he's in the background listening to the guy, and he's like, I'm pretty sure that's my entire sermon. It was like it was word per word a talk that he did, like word per word. So the speaker walked up to the other speaker afterwards, and the speaker wasn't the keynote speaker wasn't, I won't mention his name, but he wasn't like upset or anything, but he's like, hey, I'm going to talk to the guy. It wasn't like, a power trip. It was just, let's have a conversation. And he walked up to the guy. He goes, where'd you get that sermon from? The guy just broke down right off the bat. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I took it from you. Like, I read it. I can't remember where I saw it from, but he broke down. And the keynote speaker was like, I was going to be here, right? What? Next weekend when I'm not here, it was so funny. So I heard a story like that. I heard that story a couple years ago. And like, man, I don't want to be that guy ever. So, and it's hard sometimes when you're listening to such great speakers to say, man, I want to take that illustration or take these examples. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, a lot of these churches and pastors, they really encourage you to do that. They want to be a resource for churches. But it's a little different where, in my field, where people are kind of expecting the original content, you never want to, you never want to do the other, be that guy, you don't want to be Prophet Bob who preaches the same sermon as someone else. But it's so weird too. Even in the music industry, it's so weird when you do festivals. You might have a band that made a worship song really popular, like Ocean. Remember Ocean from like 9 years ago, and everyone sang it.
Oh yeah.
Who's Ocean? That Hillsong?
That's Hillsong, yeah.
Yeah. So like this isn't the exact example, but I would use that as an example. But let's say it was Hillsong and Ocean. There might be like 6 bands, throughout the day before Hillsong comes on. And like all 6 bands play the song Ocean. They're like, guys, come on, like look at the lineup. Like,
Yeah.
pick a different song. But it happens all the time. Like,
Wow.
That's so funny.
I'm not sure if you heard of a band before, this band called Hillsong. You're like, yeah, they're on in like 2 hours. It's so funny.
That's wild. I never would have imagined that.
Yeah,
But I guess
that,
it does
that makes
happen.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh, it happens so often. And it always like every like season or every like 6 months, there's always like that one hit Christian song.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love it. But when I do like these speaking tours, like when I do a tour, like I might speak 70 times within 2.5 months. Once or twice a day. And I love it. I love churches. I love churches so much. I'm being maybe too honest, but it's so funny. Like pretty much every church will play that one hit song. And they all do the same speech. Here's a brand new song you haven't heard it before. I'm like, I've heard it 72 times in a row. I'm not a jerk. If you're listening,
No,
I'm not
hilarious.
a jerk at all. But there's part of me that said, it's just so funny. I love it. But anyway, I'm very careful on the speaking side. You have your influences, and I like learning on my own, obviously. But how do you divide that? Here's my personal walk, me being fed, with now here's my prep and me trying to feed other people. I try my best to keep them separate. Even like more so reading the Bible. When I read the Bible, have you heard of that book before?
Once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah. I googled it. Like when I read the Bible, it's really hard for me, and I have to be very intentional when I'm reading it. Am I reading it for my own personal time with God? Like, how God's speaking to me, versus am I reading it, to prep a message? And it's very hard to start reading it for your personal time, and like, a couple scriptures in, you're like taking notes. This would be a great sermon.
Yeah.
So kind of the same thing with sometimes with podcasts and other speakers and books. I'd have to kind of say, hey, am I reading this for myself, or am I reading this, kind of learn and how do you separate the whole, okay, I don't want to use their stuff respectfully, because I don't want to be the guy again who gets in trouble, or I don't want to be a Blizzard. I don't want to be a Blizzard, for example, and someone in the back being like, "Oh, that's Stephen Furtick's message," I never want to be that guy. So, anyway, that's a very long answer to a simple question. I could have answered in like 8 seconds.
No, thank you.
No, there's a lot of wisdom there. And we appreciate it a lot.
Not too much wisdom, but
we are coming to close, but before then, I want to bring up Young Professionals 2230, which is a ministry that you're a part of, and I've kind of followed from a distance because it's out in London. It's based in London, right? Do you want to speak a little bit about that and what inspired it? What the heart was behind it?
Part of I'll tell you the history of it. So I'm watching the time. Oh gosh, time's over. Okay, long story short. Gotta rush. I was a young adult pastor before I started speaking. The first bunch of years of speaking, I was couch surfing. I was living in Toronto, like literally like in someone's basement or garage or out of my car in some aspects. About 6 years ago, after university college. So typically in a church, we say, hey, here's young adults, 18 to 30. But if you look at a lot of young adult, if you look at a lot of young adult ministries, a lot of them focus more on the 18 to 22 age bracket.
Yeah.
Typically, and that's just usually because that's who you have. So someone's 26 years old, they're kind of like, hanging out with 19-year-olds, I can go, but I don't feel as connected. So long story short, it started this ministry focused more on the other part of it, the 22 to 30 age bracket. And the other reason we started that, seeing a need, was in Canada a couple of years ago, the stats for something like 70% of people raised in the church are no longer in church by 22. So they do disconnect. So how can we start a ministry that can, A, keep people connected to church, and we weren't a church, but keep people connected to their local church, and maybe we fulfill what the church doesn't have. But also, B, how can we use this ministry to maybe reconnect to people who have walked away for whatever reason. So that's kind of the heart behind that ministry, and that leadership team growing and it became pretty cool in regard to that. But that was really the heart. I wanted to be productive, essentially, and invest in the city. I saw a need, and also I saw a want. And I think that's a big thing I've learned over 16 years in ministry, especially on the business side and the ministry startups, is I think you need both. I think sometimes as Christians, we do a great job saying, hey, here's the need. We need this, we need that. But if nobody wants it, are we going to spend all this extra time developing something and investing in something and nobody's saying, yeah, like I want that. And then we say, oh, why is no one here? Well, nobody wanted it to begin with. And for example, if you're living in a small town, someone can say, hey, there's a need to have a Tim Hortons in this town. Well, if nobody wants it, like, well, why are you going to invest in it and build it and, realize, oh, nobody's showing up? I find like ministry the same way. So with the young professionals, I really felt there was a need and a want. And for whatever reason, it kind of worked. So, but I encourage people to really focus on that age bracket. I think that young professional bracket, 22 to 30, I think that's a forgotten age bracket. I do think we focus on the college university group because we know there's a big drop off there. But it's almost like, hey, if we lose them, we're like, maybe they might come back when they get married and have kids. And that's what's been happening over the last couple of generations. However, I think now we're seeing with millennials, this is the first generation that has not come back. So what are we doing about that? We can't just assume, right? And I think, with the post-millennials, which is kind of like, the post-millennials, like they're like junior high, they're high school kids, like young university, college are in the post-millennial bracket. People don't realize that, but they're getting older too. What does it look like for them? Because the problem with that generation, especially on the younger spectrum of post-millennials, the problem with them is they're not leaving the church. The problem is they're not going to church. So that's going to be a whole different ministry on how do we reach them, especially after university, college, where they might be looking for a community or purpose or identity and stuff that I believe you can find through the church and ultimately through Christ. So anyway, I'm going to respect your time and shut up.
No, it's good. I know that like that.
I got that one.
Yeah, that age group is something that, as being part of that age group, like us, our friends, we feel that as well. I know for me as sort of a ministry leader as well, like I've sort of admired your ministry from far away and been like, oh, what's Mike doing? And like, how can I kind of learn from that and try and do some of those things here? Because I know you guys do all sorts of things. It's not just like you do worship nights, you do New Year's Eve, you do like big parties. I think you do like we kind of broke the ministry down to a few sections. So when we first started, we did everything in one. We did like, hey, here's a social aspect, a worship aspect, connecting a small circle type aspect, and then we started to divide it all up. So now we would have like, here's our social part of it, and with the social part of it, like you show up and just like, here's a way to connect and meet with people. And the reason we took the worship out of that, because we really wanted to use that as a way where you can invite anybody to. Doesn't matter if they have church background or not. And it's not like, hey, I'm inviting you to this, New Year's Eve party, but it could be an hour worship service. And that can be uncomfortable for someone that you work with or someone that is anti-church or walked away from church. So what we have done is we started separating that a little bit. So we would have like our worship parties, we would have our social events, we have our neighborhood events, which are more smaller, connecting points, and to try to figure out, what's best to reach people and how to have that segue. But everything we do at the end of the day, like we're trying to push people to the local church. So we tell people over and over, we are not a church. And we would have, I think, about 13 or 14 church partnerships. And I would say, here's our group. A good chunk of our community would say, yeah, maybe they're Christian, but they're not connected to church anywhere. Over and over, I say, we're not a church. We don't have a hidden agenda to turn into a church. We want you to connect to the local church. And if you are connected to the local church and showing up to our community, we want you to be a middle piece to help connect those people back to the local church. Because we don't want to be a group that says, hey, 22-30 age bracket. I don't want to be a group that says, hey, at 30 years old, it's just like junior high, senior high, like you're too old, you're done. You got nothing. By like 27, 28, whatever it is for them, or 25, we're hoping that they get connected to a local church. So whenever they transition into that next stage of life, it's not like, hey, I'm too old, I got nothing. It's actually, I don't need 22-30 anymore because now I'm invested in a local church with local teaching and maybe a small group, communities, volunteering
and all that. So that's kind of our big focus on what we're trying to do there. And but at the end of the day, it's kind of like any ministry, you kind of go with the flow, And I think it's you can have your strategy and your game plan. I think you need that, but I think if you keep listening to people and keep listening to again what they want, that's a big thing. Because at first I thought everybody wanted worship services, and that's not the case.
Right.
Some of them are like, well, we do that on a Sunday. Like we actually want
Yeah.
the community aspect because our whole church has left the church. I'm like, some churches are like, hey, there's like 5 of us in this age bracket. We want more of the social way to connect with people, and so it's just kind of like any ministry. The more you know the people that you have, the more you can really minister to them and serve them, and but there's still a lot of trial and error. Things that we've done that have totally bombed. It's like whatever, who cares? Whatever. That's ministry. But one of the cool things happening right now, just to kind of respect your time. I think right now with how we're all locked in with the COVID-19. I think it's forcing churches and ministries to try new things, and almost the trial and error thing, which I think is a really cool thing. And I think a lot of these churches and ministries and people who are watching or connecting, I think they have a lot of grace right now. Understanding, hey, for some of us it is trial and error. Maybe the tech part's not going to be perfect, and maybe what we're trying to do online is not always not going to be perfect. I think people have grace in that. So I'm hoping this season, with what we're going through, I'm hoping it can encourage leaders to say, you know what, like let's do a trial and error. Let's try to figure out what people want. Let's swing for the fences. Let's try some unique things. And my bigger hope is once we're allowed to come back to the church building, my hope is they continue with that same kind of mindset. Let us keep swinging for the fences. Let's keep being creative. Let's keep trying things that we haven't done before. And maybe 5 of them fail, but maybe 1 of them works. And the one that works can really transform an entire church or a ministry, or at least even the life of one person, which I think is worth it. So, that's always been my brainwave of how do you do the new? How do you do something that's not working or not happening? And but again, I think it goes back to knowing who you're trying to reach and just talking to them. Anyway, I'm talking too long. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it, Mike.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's
it's all
okay.
good.
We might have to do part 2. Maybe we'll do part 2.
We would love to.
We'd love to.
Well, am I allowed to invite myself back?
Sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Anytime, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. It's cool what you say about how it's forcing churches to be creative, try new things, experiment, because that's what we're doing here at Agincourt Baptist Church is stuff like Lunch Attack and trying out different live streams. Like we have our Sunday service live stream this Sunday, and just stuff like that. And it's really interesting to see the reception, and we're very grateful that you took time out of your schedule to be here today.
So
Thanks so much, Mike.
Yeah, for being here with us.
Hope the rest of your self-isolation period, being such an extrovert, hope it's not too difficult for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We'd love to have you back sometime. And,
let's do it again. Like, it's weird to invite myself back,
It's
but you kind of cook that little fruit, and But I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up. Like, keep up this awesome lunch. I'll have a better one next time. But,
okay.
But I love what you're doing. Keep it up, and and I would love to come back on at some point.
Yeah, maybe you'll have the M&Ms with the peanuts that time.
With the protein
The protein
You gotta think about health, right? You gotta think about your health. But
hey, maybe great. Next time. Hey, if you guys want Prophet Bob to come on in the okay.
Give him a call. Maybe we'll bring him in next time.
That'd be awesome.
We'll do us and your screen and his screen. That'd be great. False Prophet Bob.
Hashtag False Prophet Bob.
Hashtag False Prophet Bob. Anyway, this is Mike Gordon. You can keep up with him on Instagram. Official Mike Gordon.
Yep.
I'm correct.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're really grateful you were out here today, and I think everybody else really appreciated it. And it's been lots of fun. I feel like we could keep going, so we will have to do it again sometime. Honestly.
Yeah. Awesome.
And for everybody, thank you, man. And everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back with Lunch Attack on Tuesday. You can check us out on Sunday morning at 10:30 if you'd like to attend our Sunday service live stream. And until then, we will see you later. Thanks again, Mike.
Thanks so much.
You're the best, dude.
See you guys later.